session today on flow templates, accelerate building automations with pre-built business processes. I'm Jason Teller. I'm one of the pre-Ms on the Lightning Flow team, and we're honored to have with us today Phil Weinmeister from 7 Summits, who's going to tell us a little bit about some flow templates that he built, as well as Norris Lee, our flow program manager, to do some demo around flow templates as well. Before we get into it, I just want to start off by saying mahalo nui loa. Thank you very much to all of our customers, all of you here today, for supporting us in the flow world. Without your support, we wouldn't be able to do what we get to do here and build these great features. So again, big mahalo, and a big mahalo to our Flow HANA. With everybody who builds on flows, we really appreciate all the support that you have. And if any of you have seen any of my previous sessions, you know that I grew up in Hawaii, so this is very near and dear to my heart, and I always take any opportunity I can to share a little bit of Hawaiian culture. So today, we're going to learn a little bit of Hawaiian. The phrase of the day that I'm going to teach everybody is no ka oi. It means the best, as in is the best, as in Flow HANA no ka oi. Flow HANA is the best. So can you guys repeat after me? Flow HANA no ka oi. Oh, come on, is that what the best sounds like? Let's hear it. Flow HANA no ka oi. Okay, that's a little bit better. Next time, I think we'll try like a warrior hula. That'll be fun. Forward-looking statement. So this is maybe one of the last time for some of you guys to actually see a forward-looking statement at Trailhead DX this year. So I think we should all take a moment, cherish this moment, and please remember to make all your purchasing decisions based on the current product catalog. All right, let's talk a little bit about flow. When we looked at our flow product strategy, we established that we had a premise that businesses need to transform digital experiences. And what does that mean? We did a survey about 2 years ago, and we found out that 80% of customers value the experience that they have, the digital experience that they have, almost as much as they do the actual product. And so when you consider this, and you talk about digital transformation, this is what we're talking about, the ability to create this really, really awesome digital experience. When you take that to the B2B world, and you talk about things like employee productivity, you hear phrases like the consumerization of IT. What does that mean? That means that the level, the bar for the digital experience is now in the consumer realm. That this same expectation that customers have is something that employees have as well. And what does that mean on the ground? It means that everybody expects a seamless interaction. Customers want to be able to place their credit card with just a simple click. Employees want to be able to resolve a case by simply clicking, getting everything done with the case for them, and then they're done. That's how they're productive. My favorite example of a seamless interaction is actually Amazon. If you have to return an order on Amazon, you can get on your mobile phone, print out a return label, put the return label on a box, take the box to UPS. As soon as UPS scans that label, you get your refund. That's a totally seamless interaction. If anybody's ever had to work in logistics or integration of any sort, you kind of realize what needs to go on in order for that interaction to actually happen and be a seamless one. And what we realize is behind every interaction is actually a process. Something as simple as I need to replace my credit card may seem like, to a user, tap on the screen, credit card confirmation, it's on its way, and I have my new credit card. But if anybody ever tried to build something like this, you realize that there's a process behind it. The card may be damaged or stolen. If the card is damaged, then you can confirm the address and ship out a new one. If it's stolen, there may be regulatory requirements. There may be disputes, transaction disputes that you actually have to handle. And in fact, if it's stolen in a foreign country, you may actually need a different address before you can send out that credit card. So a number of different processes have to happen in order to enable that very seamless interaction that the customer has. And when we talk to a lot of our customers about creating these processes, we discovered that building them is actually pretty difficult. You first have to design the process logic, i.e. you have to understand the complexity that goes on behind that really simple and easy to use experience. That takes time and that takes code. You need to integrate disparate systems. Anybody who does anything related to an enterprise realizes that you can't just have an app. You actually have to talk to n number of different systems to gather all that customer information that you need. But ideally, you don't want to present all that information to the customer because you don't want your employees or your customers having to swivel chair between apps to get their work done. So integration is really key to this whole story. And then, of course, you want to create that amazing UX, that really, really cool user experience. But just creating the experience, which does take time and code, isn't enough. You need to have that experience embedded in all the points of highest impact. People need to have that seamless interaction at hand when you need it, like when you're returning that order to Amazon. So all of these pieces add up to a lot of work to actually build out a seamless interaction. And so with Lightning Flow, you get to actually unleash that productivity. We've established 3 basic areas that Flow solves for that allows you to build seamless interaction declaratively with point and clicks. The first is point and click builders. We want to be able to build without code because it gives it additional agility and it increases the skill set of people that can actually build these things. So you can build complex workflows with these visual elements that I've been talking about. We need to automate across a number of systems. As I said, you can't have an app exist all by itself. It needs to talk to different systems, grab the data that you need, work with it in such a way that you can still have a seamless customer experience. And then you need to be able to embed those visual workflows everywhere you need them, because what's the point of having a beautiful UI if nobody's actually going to use it? So for each of these things, we have an answer. Point and click builders. We actually have 2 builders that essentially build flows. The first is our brand new flow builder that we revised in G8, so it's no longer on Flash. That was a big plus. And that actually allows you to build out the complex logic as well as those sort of embedded visual experiences we're talking about. One of the really cool things about the visual experience is that we actually, about a year and a half ago, started supporting Lightning components inside of flow screens. So this gives you yet another layer of reusability and complex UX experience that you can build into those actual processes. The second builder that we have is Process Builder. I usually describe this as sort of an if this then that type of builder. There's a trigger, takes a certain number of actions, and you can do that on the background without having to actually engage the user in doing multiple changes in order for that automation to actually work. Now let's take a moment and talk about integration. There's actually 4 different ways you can integrate with Flow. The cool thing about all these integration types is that basically if you create that integration, you can actually drag and drop it as an element in the flow anywhere you actually need to use it. So it's a really good example of the build once, use everywhere type of philosophy. First type of integration that we provide, platform events. Basically, platform events leverage a pub-sub architecture inside of Salesforce. You can have both internal Salesforce systems as well as external third-party systems publish and subscribe to events, which allows you to do asynchronous processing via our event bus. One of the really cool things about platform events is the fact that you can publish once and subscribe numerous times. So if you decide to change how you react to a particular integration, that's pretty easy because you just change the subscriber, no changes to the actual integration itself. So really, really cool feature from that respect. The second are shared open API services. We call these external services on the platform. Basically, it's declarative integration. You can wrap an API, or if it already exists, as a Swagger and open API definition, and then declaratively create that integration to make that call out. Once you've created that integration with external services, again, it's just an element that you can drag and drop, use anywhere inside your process or flow. Third area, MuleSoft. It wouldn't be a discussion of integration at Salesforce without talking about MuleSoft. Basically, actions and services can also be leveraged inside of Flow, again, drag and drop to talk to the iPaaS as your key integration point. And then finally, of course, Apex. You can do custom integrations with Apex. These actually result in invocable Apex that can make those callouts. And then, yet again, with any of these 4, as well as the Apex, once it's created, you drag and drop and use it inside of the flow or process that you're trying to have. We embed these visual workflows wherever we can, or wherever we need to, and that's typically done using the flow component in a number of different ways. On the bottom left of the screen here, you see a mobile experience through a community portal, because it is mobile responsive, where you can just go ahead and drag and drop a flow and use it there for that visual experience. In the middle, we have a desktop experience via community portal, where again, same thing, drag and drop the flow component there, use it there as well. And on the right, we have our Lightning console. So you can actually drag and drop a flow component inside of any record page, use it there. Or if you want, we have our guided action list, which is a platform component where you can then select the flows that you actually want to tee up and kick off, so that way you can have a different way to do that process. Also in the console, you can use the utility bar, embed the flow straight in there, as well as a quick action to call a flow. So pretty much anywhere you can think of that you actually want a flow to show up, we give you a way to actually do that. And one of the things that I also want to point out with flows is that basically we empower everyone to create these automated processes. So anything from a no-code, low-code type of builder all the way up to a pro-code builder can leverage these types of flows. One of the really cool things about using things like Apex actions and integrations and these building blocks is that coders can actually create these and then have other folks go ahead and mix and match them as they need to build out these different flows and processes that they want. One of the questions I've been getting a lot of at TDX this year is, kind of how do I decide when I should go with Apex or when I should actually go with Flow? And that's a really good question. I mean, a lot of it is up to you, but generally my guidance is consider the value of your development efforts, right? building out a gnarly integration is something that you really want your developers focused on. Where you're going to use that integration may change, right? It's fine to build it the first time, but if you want to iterate or move it or maintain it or something like that, it's good to have that in a point-and-click type of setup so you can go ahead and easily change that around. And speaking of easily change it around, the second sort of key point that you might want to consider in the decision between using Apex or Flow is the ability to have business agility. This is an increasing pressure for most IT departments. You want to be able to make quick changes. Often you have, say, marketing programs, promos, they're changing all the time. Identify the places where you need agility. Something like point and click is a great place to actually implement that agility inside of your process. So a couple things to keep in mind. Again, we service all of these, but those are sort of the key guiding factors that I typically recommend. We've got a lot of businesses that are using this sort of capability to transform their experiences. There's about 125,000 active orgs across Salesforce leveraging our Flow technology. It's about 500 billion processes run per month. That's about 500% growth over the last 18 months, so it's pretty awesome. And it pretty much happens in all the major verticals. We talk about financial services, telecom, media, healthcare. You know, John Hancock's got a great example how they do claims intake with a visual flow with a bunch of stages and some document generation. You know, one call on case resolution for some healthcare examples. So a lot of different cool stuff that's happening here with the different flows. Now, I talk about all this sort of technology, and we still get the question of, well, okay, that makes sense, but is there any way I can really reduce my development time? How do I reduce that time to market? How do I reduce that time to value? And we have an answer for you there as well. You can basically leverage pre-built automations from the AppExchange. We actually have two types of flow solutions. The first is flow actions. These flow actions are actually something we launched at Dreamforce last year. They're essentially drag and drop actions that once installed, you can go ahead and use inside your processes to take action in particular areas. And we had a bunch of different partners build a bunch of these flow actions for us last year, and they continue to do so. The second, what we're talking about here today, are flow templates, which are basically configurable business processes. We've got a bunch of partners that helped us build flow templates as well. A number of them are listed out here. And in fact, Phil here from 7 Summits is going to tell you more about one of the ones that he built, which we think is really cool and very useful. So let's dig a little bit deeper on the flow templates. So flow templates allow you to jumpstart your automation development. One of the things that you may realize or may have encountered when you go ahead and open this really cool looking new flow builder is that you start a new flow and you end up with this big white blank canvas. I call that blank canvas anxiety. You're kind of staring at this big white space going, what do I do next? So what do you do next? Well, here's a good option. You can actually take an industry best practice process and start with that instead of a blank canvas. And that's essentially what these flow templates are. The partners that we have create industry-specific best practices. You get subject matter expertise baked right into the process that you go ahead and start with. And then the really cool part about it is that you go ahead and install that flow template, which then allows you to see it, copy it, and then configure it to your specific business needs. So now you have the ability to see what that best practice looks like, make a copy of it, edit it as you need, and then run that actual flow for your specific business needs. One of the other cool things about this setup is the fact that when a partner goes ahead and makes an upgrade or an update to that template, they can go ahead and provide you the latest version, and it will be there as the latest version of template. And then you have the choice as to whether or not to continue with your current process or go ahead and make another copy and incorporate your changes, and then take an updated version of the process. So you get the best of both in the sense that you can continue to run what works you've configured for your process, but you also have the upgrades available to you should you choose to take them. So a lot of flexibility there. And like I said, a bunch of partners actually build these out for us in the AppExchange, and Phil's going to tell us more about that. But before we go there, Norris is actually going to tell us a little bit about how you actually create a template and how you actually use one inside of an org. Norris?
Cool. Thanks, Jason. Once again, I'm Norris Lee, a technical program manager on the Lightning Flow team. First off, I want to say thank you for taking the time to be here. I know you guys could have been in any other session, but thank you for taking the next 40 minutes and spending time with us. I hope you guys are as excited as I am with this demo. So let's start off with Process Builder. This Flow Templates piece also works with your processes that you've built in Process Builder. Let me show you how to make a current process a template that you can use. So let's go into our admin page here and setup. We'll go into Process Builder. Let me select this process, call X service, and open that up. So that opens up our normal Process Builder experience. In our top right corner here, we have the Edit Properties field. And if you notice, we now have this template checkbox that allows you to make this a template And once you hit save, that template can be used as a starting point for any new process that you may be building in the future. Pretty awesome stuff. Let's now switch over to flows and see what that looks like. So I'm going to jump to a flow here. I'm going to open up or edit an existing flow that I have today, this awesome demo flow. You edit that, and if you notice, that same checkbox to make it a template is here today. So hit that and hit save. And that will automatically make this flow that I've created a template that you can use anywhere else. You can make a copy of it, add, subtract, anything that you want to do. Let's take a look at what that looks like. So I'm going to hit open on that template. And it's showing off our new flow builder that we launched last year that Jason talked about. At this point, I'm able to make any edits that I want. I could delete a node, add a node, and notice that the Save As button is here, and I could save a new version of this flow, taking that template and making it a new flow. Pretty awesome stuff. Jason also talked about launching flow templates on the AppExchange, and that we have partners that created templates for us that you can take today, install on your org, and leverage them as a starting point for your flows and customize them to your needs. Let's take a look at what that looks like. I'm going to navigate over to AppExchange. And this is our AppExchange that is live today that you can take. It's not a future forward-looking statement. It's live now. You go to appexchange.com, go to Flow Solutions, and these templates will be available for you. You noticed here we have templates from Nintex, and Brad's in the audience here, templates from 7 Summits that you guys can leverage, and that's available today. In addition, if you scroll down, you can find these flow actions that Jason talked about earlier, and drag and drop these actions into your current flows to extend the power of flow. All right, let me go back to the flow here. And let's take a look at what it looks like when I actually install these templates. Leave that. Let's not worry about that. And if you notice here, there's a couple of things to highlight. You notice that, remember that I made that awesome demo a template. You see on the right-hand side here, there's a column now that we've added that denotes that if it's a template or not. That's pretty cool. In addition, we also have templates that we've downloaded from the AppExchange. For example, this Get Feedback template is now has an icon here that shows that it's a manage installed package and is a template that you can use as a starting point to what you want to do, and then customize it to your specific business needs. Let me show you how easy it is to create a new flow. So I'm going to hit a new flow button here. And that would open up a new flow model that we've launched a part of this release, upcoming release. If you look at here, we have a couple of templates that's available for us. Remember that awesome flow demo? Right here. All I need to do is click that. It would open up that demo, and it will show. For the sake of this demo, I want to open up the questionnaire flow template that I've created. Oh my gosh, look at this flow. It's already built for me. I didn't have to do anything. With the power of these templates, allows you as a starting point that you can take this, customize it to your needs, and use it into your environment. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Phil to talk about this questionnaire template a little bit more.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Norris. Appreciate it. Glad to be here. I've been a big fan of the no-code options and the low-code options on Salesforce for a number of years, since 2010, so much so that I wrote a book on it. So practical Salesforce development without code is something I put a lot of time into. Actually, I have a new version coming out next week. So that just shows you how much I care about this world of low and no-code development. But just a quick introduction. I work for 7 Summits, as you heard. I run product there. So we're an SI dedicated to communities, but I have the cool job of building out reusable applications that we use in our implementations, which is pretty exciting. So something like Flow Template is really perfect for us, so we can build it once and reuse it in these implementations and make it highly configurable. So today, I'll be showing you the questionnaire form Flow Template. Very cool that you can go and get this right now. So after this session, go ahead and download it. Totally free for you guys. So let's take a look here. And let me make sure that my laptop does not power off. So let me quickly plug in here. Awesome. Okay, so let's get started. Right now I'm on the, basically we have a basic data model. We have questionnaires, so you create a questionnaire. You create questions that are associated with those questionnaires, and there's a lot of metadata associated with the questionnaire. The name, obviously, whether it's active, we can associate a type with it. We can associate a header image. And when we get down to the questions themselves, we can also create things like, well, what is the question? What are the responses available? And we can even associate an image with each question as well. You can even do things like declaratively decide which SLDS icon you want to show. So you have total control. What we try to do is basically take out anything that might normally be in the code and make it configurable for you. So let's go ahead and walk through this. So here we are on the home page, and what I've done is I took what we call the employee tools questionnaire. Again, this is just an example. You can build these however you want with your own data. Dropped it in to Lightning App Builder very easily. So just simply here on the home page, once you install and you create the questionnaire you want, you would come into Lightning App Builder and you'd take the flow component over on the left and simply drag it over here. You would select the questionnaire flow, and in this case, what we're showing is a specific questionnaire. So active questionnaire, I just went ahead and put in the ID of that. There are other alternatives as well. If you want to present a list of questionnaires that you can select from, that's pretty easy to do. What we're going to do is go ahead and say list type employee. What this will do is show us a list of all the questionnaires that are categorized as employee questionnaires. So let's save, let's go back, and we should see that update here on the home page. So there we go. So now we have a list we can choose from. Using flow here, you can see we can choose using radio buttons. So let's go ahead and walk through this. Let's go ahead and select Employee Tools Questionnaire. Again, we're presented with a few things that are configurable. Again, none of this requires any code, so you can modify the name, the description, the image, SLDS icon, the question, and all the button text. Also, we took advantage of a base component here that allows us to select an answer and navigate using that. So you don't have to select an answer and click next in the flow. You can go ahead and just select your answer. So in this case, an organization is looking to get information from employees. So here's some of the questions they're asking. What type of computer do you use at home? You can see we have a picture of a laptop here. I'll go ahead and select Mac. And you can see selecting that actually navigates me to the next screen. What type of phone do you have at home? Makes it a lot nicer when you can make these visual flows so that the images really help out a lot here. Change the icon to a question mark on this one. Apple. How often do you use your work laptop at home? We have that nice coffee cup and the cool desk here to show you might be at home here. Well, let's say daily. And then last, how old is your work laptop? That one is probably pretty old. We're going to go ahead and say, over 3 years old. Now, when you're done, we also allow for success text. That's also configurable. So you can show whatever you want when the form is completed, and you can click Finish. And what's also nice is when that questionnaire is completed, it is saved in a junction object against the user or the contact, which I'll show you in a minute, questionnaire itself. So that filled out questionnaire is saved, and you can use that in a subflow that is part of the flow. That's also templatized. So it's very basic right now. It really doesn't do a whole lot, but it basically gives you the power to take that data and do what you want with it. Do you want to process it in an external system? Great. Take it and send it externally. If you want to process it in any other way, send it in an email or anything like that, you can handle that right from within the flow. Now, what if somebody goes to take the same questionnaire again? They're going to get a message that it has already been completed. So that's all they're in for you. But that's in there for you already. But what's really cool is, again, with flow templates, if some of the logic is a little bit different than what you want, that's no problem. You can modify that. So you can go in and change the logic. That's really important here is that, yes, you get a lot right out of the box that you can use, and if it fits your needs immediately, hey, that's awesome. But you can take it and tweak it. You want to change the logic a little bit or something like that, no problem. Okay, so what we did was we showed this component within Lightning Experience. Pretty easy to use, right? Well, the nice benefit of Lightning Flow, as you may know, is that it's also very, you can use it within Lightning communities as well and other interfaces. So let's check that out. So I took the same exact component and dropped it into a Lightning community. I configured it to point to a different questionnaire. So this is a loan questionnaire. So we're in a community, financial services related, and we want to find out a little bit about what this customer is interested in around their loan information. So they're looking for a loan. We want to capture that information from them. So let's start this off. Now in this case, I just decided to add one header image, and it applies across all the screens. And I don't have to set it each time. I can just set it once at the top level. So what's the purpose of your mortgage? Let's say this is for a purchase. What's your desired loan amount? And you'll notice that SLDS icon on the left is changing each time. So let's go ahead and select that. You can tell this is definitely not the San Francisco real estate market. Single family residence here. And what loan type are you interested in? 30-year fixed. How will you use this property? This will be primary residence. So upon clicking this last question, it's going to capture that information and again, save it to my user. So in this case, I'm an external user and I'm going through this and it'll save against that user record in Salesforce. Now this is where you can take, I have some sample success text here. This is where you can take it, process it as you want, and you can use the logic within Flow to provide a different message if you'd like to do that. So that shows a lot of flexibility, different interfaces. I'll show one last use of it. You can actually take it, and let's say you want to have your internal agent, an employee, communicate with an external customer. So it's for a customer, but they're not the one actually filling it out. No problem. You can go ahead and drop it on a contact page. And you can configure, this is where a list might be relevant. So you could show a list, and an agent might say, well, what do I need to ask this customer about? So I could show a list of all available questionnaires that an agent might ask this particular customer. In this case, I just dropped a specific one onto the page. What's going to happen here is a little bit different. It's going to save this questionnaire against the contact record. This is all very useful, as you know, as we try to create a 360 view of the customer. So you want to have that data associated with the user or associated with the contact. So in this case, I'm on the phone with Carol White. I'm an agent. What's your budget? And I'm asking her these questions. She's answering me. And also, I mentioned earlier, you can provide script text. So if you want to provide information that just the agent will know is for him or her, you can do that as well. So make sure not to mention X, Y, or Z, or make sure to ask about this. You can do that. So what's your budget? $1,000 to $5,000. When are you looking to buy? So a couple of simple questions, 1 to 4 weeks. Awesome. So success, this information will be saved on the contact. Now, when I click Finish, take a look over to the left. Notice with completed questionnaires, there's the record. So if we take a look at that record, you'll see right now it's saved to that contact, Carol White. You also notice there's a user lookup field as well. So that's where it'll save to one of those fields depending on whether you're using it against a user or against a contact. So yeah, we were really excited to be a part of this initial launch of Flow templates. Again, you can go out to AppExchange here. The one that I just showed you is right here, questionnaire Flow template. So you can download it today. Let me know what you guys think, and glad to be here today and be a part of this presentation.
Switcher and then switch to.
All right, thank you very much, Phil. Yeah, I think one of the cool things about the questionnaire template is not only that you actually get all this stuff for you that you can go ahead and configure, kind of the way Phil described it, but it actually has a lot of the design patterns that I've often been asked about as a Flow PM. When we talk about these digital experiences, a lot of folks have asked, oh, well, how do I override the Chrome? How do I not use back and next? I'd like to be able to click on a button and have it advance. That's in there. How do I use images inside of my flows to create a rich visual experience? That's in there. How do I get a script? I mean, the list goes on and on. So definitely check out Phil's flow template around the questionnaire stuff, and you can pick up not only just the questionnaire pieces, but a lot of great practices on how you create these really cool digital experiences. And that's the whole point of these flow templates. So it wouldn't be a PM presentation on flow if I didn't talk a little bit about what we've got in store and what we have in the future. So let's talk a little roadmap. Let's talk a little bit about what's in our summer release. That's assuming it'll advance for me. The presentation does not like me talking about the roadmap, apparently. Okay, the first big item we have for our summer release is what we call access to rich web objects via what we call the Apex-defined flow type. For any of the developers in the audience, this is actually pretty straightforward. It's complex type support in Flow. And so one of the great things about this is that if you annotate your Apex classes with that OR enabled, you can now refer to those inside the flow as an Apex-defined type and pull the associated variables with that. And you can also leverage it inside of integration. So basically, if you have an external system, this works actually with external services. It'll automatically do this annotation for you, and then you get these sort of complex types back as Apex-defined types, and then you have the associated variables. If Flow can't do what you want with that particular complex type, we also enable the capability so that you can take the complex type and pass it into a Lightning component, at which point your basically Apex is at your disposal to actually do all the manipulation you need. So going back to my slide about the low code, pro code, and the whole spectrum, here's a really great example of how we can service the entire spectrum using Flow. So kind of pick and choose what works best for you. If you want to learn more about the rich web objects and the Apex-defined types, I highly recommend going back to the recording of a session on advanced Flow components and techniques that was done by my colleague Alex Edelstein. It was probably one of the most popular sessions at TDX this year. He did it yesterday. He did it again this morning. So there might actually be 2 recordings of it. Anyway, he talks a lot about how to actually implement this from a development perspective. So I highly recommend you check that out. The other big news we have is we actually support custom metadata types in Process Builder now. This is something you could do in Flow. Yes, we get a lot of cheers. We can round of applause for the custom metadata types in Process Builder. Thanks. Yeah, this is actually really cool. Custom metadata types are great for introducing level configurability. I was just in London last week at our partner forum where we had a great example where one of our partners leveraged custom metadata types in association with flows for utilities in the UK where they needed to actually have different types of appendices appended to contracts. And they had this structure to actually use the contracts, but to define the appendices, they needed somewhere to define those. And doing that as a custom metadata type allowed them to just go ahead and have analysts add more appendices, and they just automatically show up as part of your flow process. So really, really powerful tool. Was available in just Flow, now also available point and click inside of Process Builder. So really happy about supporting that. I'm also really proud to announce that we are launching what we call our Automation Home. It's in beta for our summer release. Automation Home actually provides you usage information around your flows, so the last 30 days of executions around your flows. It also has a great section on what we have for getting started, so it'll take you to the AppExchange for the flow templates. It links you to the Trailhead stuff that you need to learn more about Flow. If you haven't used Flow, this is a great place to start. Learning about Flow. It also has links to the Trailblazer community, basically everything you want around the Flow ecosystem to help you learn more about Flow. The other thing that the page has that we're actually introducing is more Flow telemetry, or I should say just Flow telemetry. And so one of the things that you get from this is that we'll have metrics around your last 30 days of screen flow usage, like which screen flow is my top flow, how many times has it been executed in the last 30 days. We'll also have information around flow errors, which flow, which process generated the most errors, hopefully not too many, in the last 30 days as well. We'll have information around flow duration. In the last day, what is the mean average duration of this particular process or flow? So you get a really good sense of the value and the usage around your flows. And then we'll also have information around executions by process type. So we found, a few of you folks have used Flow for a while, you do realize there are different process types we have, and now you can understand what the usage looks like between the different process types. So a lot of great stuff here in our Automation Home. We actually have some roadmap items for it as well. We want to be able to do better process analysis, so introducing things like the ability to have process relationships. How many of these processes key off a particular object trigger? Which ones are they? What's the relationship between two different processes that call each other? Things like that. We want to give you the ability to actually see more of what's going on in your org when it comes to processes, and so we want to introduce that as part of our Automation Home. And then finally, a getting started type wizard. There was a great session by my colleague Tim Peng, who's in the audience here today, on which automation tools I use. We'd like to take that session and basically bake it into something that anybody who wants to use Flow can use directly from our automation homepage here. So a lot of cool stuff. It is in beta. We're just introducing it. This is really an area where I'd love to hear your feedback, in the community, like what would you like to see more of, and we can really plan out more of a roadmap around the features and prioritize them for this particular area. In general, what's coming in 2019 for Lightning Flow? Well, we talked about pre-built flows and processes. That's pretty killer with the Flow templates. The other thing is that for these pre-built flows and processes, a number of Salesforce apps are actually creating them as templates as well. We have the Lightning Scheduler, which is part of our financial services cloud in their industries area, which allows you to schedule appointments using a Flow template, and then you can modify it if you have specifics around the appointment scheduling you need to do. We also have Contact Me in Service Cloud, which allows you to modify the experience of having a customer say, please contact me as part of that app. I mentioned infinite objects. That's basically our rich web objects support with complex types, and we're going to continue to invest more in that. In the future, one of our big goals is around flow simplification. We want to make it easier for folks to build and create flows. There are a number of areas that aren't necessarily easy for a lot of people to sort of understand at first glance. There are a number of people who have difficulty, say, with using a variable inside a flow, and when am I supposed to use that, and when I'm supposed to attach it, et cetera, et cetera. That's actually one of the areas we're targeting. We're hoping that in a number of cases, we can go ahead and automatically define the output for that without actually having to require you to define a variable that absorbs it. So a lot of interesting things going in there. The goal here is really to just make it 50% easier to create, edit, and test flows and processes. Also, lots of new screen components and flow actions are in the mix, in the pipeline. Things like lookup, record form, address component. Again, back to that whole make it easy to create these screens. We've been introducing these components with every release, and we will continue to do so. And then finally, as I kind of hinted out with the automation home, we want to have improved monitoring, testing, and analytics capabilities around the processes. Part of the value of having a consistent, reusable business process is to actually be able to improve on it. So you've built it, that's great, what do you do next? Providing you that level of analysis, that level of insight into the value of what you're doing so you can actually improve it, that's another goal of ours in the longer term. So to learn more about Lightning Flow, we have a lot of great Trailhead resources. Go ahead and have a look at those. We also have a developer center. I highly recommend you check out the Lightning Flow Developer Center. It's got a lot of great webinar content, a lot of good examples, videos, things like that. We also have our unofficial SF site where you can get code samples and other things from the community, just that's being shared for what you can leverage inside of your Flow experience. What's next? Actually, not much is next. I'm actually the last Flow session at TDX this year. But as you can see, we had a lot of great sessions here, and I've mentioned a couple of them. I highly recommend going out and checking the recordings for these. Some of the key things to look at, if you're new to Flow or process and you're trying to figure out what to use, like I said, my colleague Tim Peng's session on which automation tool to use. Also, we have a lot of pre-built lab solutions. That's a great place to look there. I mentioned my colleague Alex Edelstein's advanced Flow solutions. So if you're a developer and you want to understand how to work more with Flow, Apex types, complex types, things like that, definitely check out that recording. We also had a session that was actually on external services and REST APIs done by Shintong, our PM in external services, that actually directly relates to Flow and integrating using Flow for external services. So tons of great stuff out there. And I just want to conclude by saying mahalo nui loa. Thank you very much again. And we really appreciate all your support in Flow. We'll see you next time. And we can maybe take any questions, or we'll take them up here. It's up to you guys.
Yeah, how did we get that flow to refresh the other components of the detail page?
The flow.
We finished the flow, the questionnaire.
Yeah, there was actually no additional work for that. It's just the completion of the flow. Thanks to this guy right here.
Anytime. Oh yeah, so that's actually one that when you go to look at the filter, you can add to the view, and it'll show up. So it's not default out of the box, but if you go to add columns, you can add template, and it'll show up there.